Hi, and welcome to another webinar of the Steel Detailer. Today we're going to cover basically how to add to the library, and I'd like to welcome everybody that's online. I've muted everyone because if we have too many people talking, it slows down the screen in its processes. So if you see anything today that you want to ask some questions about, please email us at support@thesteeldetailer. We'd be happy to answer any questions. My name's Michael Crawford. I'm the presenter for today. Um, so basically, yeah, let's get started. Let's look through what we have to achieve. So TSD's fundamental processes work within a library structure that contains drawing templates and things like that to help us create models. So basically there are certain rules that we have to adapt to, and there are also different locations for library components. Depending on where you wish to store them is up to you. How you store them is important because there are rules. I'm going to go through some of the rules, and hopefully today we can get through probably two stages. One of them will cover how to create library components from scratch, and then hopefully if we get to that at the end, maybe even look at how we can reuse project components and put them back into the library. So there are different library components for those that don't know. With those, I'll just go through them so that you can see where they are at. So let's just start with the smallest components that we usually deal with, and if we go into our TSD connections and then in our plate area we've got our plate library. And make sure that you're in appropriate areas to be able to install these, so you'll get messages like this that'll pop up. These are for our new users so that they know exactly where they have to be able to work them. In that instance I can't show you that without dropping in something, so I'm going to do that right now. If I go into my TSD members and put in a blank member, this will get us started. So I'm just going to put in a blank member, and I'll just call it a column, and I'm going to make it vertical. So this will just put in something for us to start with so we can have a look at some plates. So we put the tick, and that should put in the blank member for us. Interesting, should have copied a drawing across, but anyway. If we open up our blank member, we can in here insert our plates. So now if I go back to the insert plate, it'll give us a list. So this is one of our libraries. This is the plate library. Now when we insert a plate from our plate library, it brings a drawing across. Okay, so any one of these plates we can insert, and we can also add to this library. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a plate from scratch. That'll be the first one. Okay, so we've got the plate library. Also in the library at this level, if we were to insert, we would have parts. So we've got ourselves a part library as well. Now in the part library we have pretty much a filtering system, 3 stages. We have a discipline, a model type. In this case I think I might have something in here. I have a beam in the library. So we have a model type, which you would have seen in that pull down there. We've got different types of model types in our filtering, and then we have a model supplier. Okay, I'll show you how to add a part to the library. I think also in here, part of our customers library, so that they can build all kinds of things, we supply some parts as examples. So if we were to go over to vendor, Staunchion, WebForge, we've got all of our WebForge Staunchions in there that you can simply insert. Now you can create your own parts off the scratch and bring it in and insert it into the library so that it can be reused over and over again. So that's 2 different types of libraries. So we've got parts, and now we've got plates. Now we're going to have a look at the connection library. So if we go up into the TSD connections, these names here for connections are shortcuts to the most common connections that you can get your hands on. Obviously base plates and cat plates, end plates and fin plates are the most common. We get a fair few web stiffeners, and if you're into the building industry, fascias, purlins, girts, flow bracing connections. They're the stock standard, and these are just shortcuts. You can, however, create your own through the filtering system. Now connections have their own filtering system, and it's just one filter. So when I click on it, I get my base plates. and in there I've got different types of naming conventions for every different type of connection that I want to add. So you've got the connection library. The next one up above the connection library is the member library. So in the member library we've got members that contain everything that you can think of. So if I go into beams, you can see I've got predefined beams in my library, and we've got beams with bracing connections, end plate connections, as you can see as I scroll down. So basically you can drop a beam in and have the connections already ready there to go for connecting, and a template. Alright, so that's the member library. Now the member library itself has the same filtering system as the parts library. Just makes things easier if you keep everything in some sort of an ordered fashion. And because you use the same filters for certain things, it just makes it easier. Obviously if you're filtering within members, you get members. If you're filtering within parts, you get parts. The next level up, that of course is what we call an area library. There's also that. I'm not sure if I've got an example in here, but I can certainly have a look. So in an area, we insert an area. It doesn't look like I have. So if I've completed a project in a complete area, I can upload that to the area library. So it means, say for instance, you've got a building that you use on a regular basis, and you want to reuse the same building again and again and again. You put it in the area library, and then for every project you just bring that area in and you can reuse it over and over again. And that means the area itself contains everything in it, like members, connections, plates, everything that you would use to create a building, including all of its detailed drawings. The next level above that is a project. Obviously you can copy a project from one location to another. So if you've got multiple areas that you've worked on in a project and you wish to rebadge or really recreate, that's the next one up, and we can do that with the copy project. Okay. That pretty much covers the actual library, so let's get started creating some components to put into the library. Now what I want to tell you is that SolidWorks is fully functional in any of the processes. There are some rules that you have to follow to be able to add to the library. TSD, in the most complicated location, which is the members area, has an auditing system which will check over your model and ensure that you've actually complied with certain rules to be able to insert it in. Now we do this deliberately, and we've added it to the product because what we want to do is keep a streamlined, clean library. If you don't follow these rules, you can end up with a pretty messy library. You've also got to take into consideration that TSD is not just a modeling or a steel detailing package. It is a process, and the process has to be followed. Okay, now I've just gone through and shown you plates. I've shown you connections, members, area libraries, and I did mention connections, I hope, and of course the project. Now what we do to build a project is we create the plates, we create the connections, we create the members, and we put them in the project. So reusing your library over and over again is obviously something that you need to get familiar with in your processes. Some customers have books. They've created books so that they can manage their library. We have a library in the back end, and I'll show you how all that works, and you can get to the library and have a look at what's in there. Now if you use a multi-user environment and you've got plenty of people working on it, I'd suggest seriously having a library controller, because your library can get out of control simply because there's so many people involved in building such a library. Okay, so let's get started on creating a library. Now there are some things that you need to consider. We're going to start with plates. So with the plates library, you don't need to, if you're going to lay out plates, to have TSD. We'll just point this out because it's just standard SolidWorks modeling. You can do the same thing with members, and you can do the same thing with connections. So there are two ways of creating these things. Now I'm going to show you the easiest way, which is outside of SolidWorks, outside of TSD with SolidWorks, and then we can add it to the library as we work. Obviously the other stage, hopefully I'll get to it before the end, and that's recreating library components from existing objects in our projects. So obviously first one, let's do that now. So what I usually do to start off is we're going to start with plates. So we create a layout area. So I'm just going to create a new folder on my desktop, and I'm going to call it layouts. Now you can put this anywhere you like. and in there I'm going to start the process of creating a plate. Now these are the rules. Okay, for plates, they have to be drawn with your sketch on the top plane in all instances. And the reason for that is when we run our BOM compiler over the top, it gets the bounding box of the plate. So if your plate's on a skew-if angle, it's going to give the wrong thickness. So if you put it on a plane, it'll give the correct thickness. When you prepare your plates, you need to have a filing system in place. Now plates have a filing system, so I'm just going to create this one. And with plates, just so that you know, there's a naming convention in place so that we're going to follow a system. So in this case, I've got a plate that I'm putting into a connection, and this is pretty much the naming convention for it. Now I need to make sure that I'm on the right path. I've got models here that I can go and have a look at, so that I'm 100% sure that I'm on the right path. If I go into my library, under the where I've stored it, this is where the archives are kept. So I've got my TSD library, and then I have my plate library. So in this instance, I only need to name it like that. So I've put a connection in. I can actually just grab the name of the folder, and yeah, I was on the wrong path. That's why I had to have a sticky. And if I just start it off like that, you could also put your plates in a particular folder as well. So let's just say layout. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it plates. I like caps because it highlights things a bit better. So now I'm just putting a folder in there. Now the folder itself has to match the plate that I'm going to create. So I'm going to go back over to SolidWorks now, and I'm going to start a new file. Okay. Now I've got templates that I've already created, and it's up to you on how you want to set them up. This one just tells me that I've got plain carbon steel in there, and my units are already set up. Now, as I said, I'm going to create my plate. Now to do that, I'm just creating a sketch on the top plane. Straight up, all plate sketches on top plane and extrude from there. You can do mid extrudes and directional extrudes in different directions, and I'll just show you that. Now for this particular plate, I'm just going to draw it on center, so I get a center plate that looks a bit like this. And I'm going to put some dimensions on it, say 400, and so it's a decent sort of plate. Now if I turn that around, you can see that it's on the top plane. I'm now going to extrude it, and what I mean by mid plane is I can have it set down so that the extrusion is in both directions, or I can actually go blind, then I can switch either side. If you can see that, that's handy. I'm just switching the toggle so that it extrudes down or extrudes up. Now normally I usually just extrude up because that's the default setting, and we can give it a thickness, say 20 mil. So I've got myself a plate. Now I haven't added any holes. I'll do that in a minute. What I want to do now is just save the plate, and I'm going to go to my desktop so that I can go to my layouts area and make sure I've got that. Go into my plates library, my plates layout area. Now the name of the plate must match the name of the folder. That's a rule. Okay, so we're just going to create the folder, put the plate in there, click save. Okay, so now we've got our plate started. On the top plane, we can also put in a sketch that sets out the centers for our plate itself. So we can do another sketch, and you can select the same import, same origin, and same rectangle. In here I'm just adding dimension clearances that I can change at will at any stage. And what I usually do, oops, sorry, wrong, we stick with 35 edge clearance there, thanks. And what I do is I make it all for construction. Okay, so there's no lines or anything. So I've got myself a plate edge, and with that I can name my sketch by clicking on it, center hole sketch. Okay, so that sets up my holes. If I click on the top of the plate, I go to the hole wizard under the features tab, and the hole wizard gives me some holes that I can choose. I've got a hole, I've got our standard drill sizes, and in here we've got actual hole size. So I'm just going to put some diameter 24 holes in, and in condition I'm just going to go up to next, which means that it's going to go to the next face. Okay, now the positions, all I need to do is just snap my points. So I've just clicked on the positions tab and just snap my points on the lines, and that sets up the centers for my plate. Alright, now I don't want to see that driving sketch anymore, so I'm just removing it. Now I've got my plate. I can actually go around and add different things to it. I can do cutouts. Plates can be anything you like. Anything you want to model, you can create them. So I'm just putting a chamfer on the corners, just to take the edges off. As I said, you can create any plate you like. I could go in there and just put another sketch in the middle here, and I like to define my sketches by habit. It's recommended by SolidWorks that you fully define your sketches. So I'm just going to cut a hole in the middle of that using the cut extrude feature. You could go around and select all the corners and one by one, or you could select the actual faces and put in a curve, a fillet. Okay, so yeah, I'm just pointing out that you can create any kind of plate you want. It's up to you. Now what we want to do is we want to create a template drawing for this plate. So we just file, new. I've actually got template drawings already ready to go here, which is defaults. If you don't have them, set them up as per SolidWorks requirements. So you can go into the TSD folder. There is a template location you can point to. I'll get into that later if you want to. Just request it and we'll demonstrate it. So at the moment I'm just going to drop it on. Now I'm selecting the plate here that I've got, which I'm going to put on. And the beautiful thing about it is the first thing it brings in is an isometric view. If you click on the top view, because every plate is on the top view, in every instance we get the same plate coming in on top view. Okay, now the plate scale itself, we can up that a bit more. So down on the left hand side in the feature tree we can actually really size that up, so that we've got our plate. Now we can just run some basic dimensions over the top of this on any way you like, in any location you like. Okay, so I'm just just positioning things, and I can go crazy here. There is an automatic dimensioning process that SolidWorks has. If you go into the Smart Dimension, you've got Auto Dimension. Okay, now you can knock yourself out with this if you really want to. If I click that edge there and that edge, whoops, not that edge, I don't want that. I want all views, so I'm just selecting that edge, and if I click apply, you'll notice that it brings in, don't worry about that whole call out. Whoops, I just hit escaped, I didn't confirm it. I'll do it again. So Smart Dimension, Auto Dimension, it's already picked up the edges that I want by the looks of it. Hit my tick, and there's all my dimensions. So all I need to do is just move things out. It does go crazy, like I said. There are dimensions everywhere here, and they're probably not even on the right locations. But I'm just pointing out that the possibility is that you can auto dimension in one hit. You can remove the dimensions you don't want. Also too, you can actually bring in your model dimensions. So if you've modeled this plate up a certain way, you can bring those dimensions in as well. So this is a quick way of doing your dimensioning, or you can actually set your template up so it's a certain way in every direction. Choice is up to you. The ordinate dimensions that you get there, you can remove extra dimension lines that you don't want, just to tidy it up a bit. So I'm just going through and just removing extras that I don't want. And text, you can just go in and add to it. Caps, snipe, tip. So you can add extra notes to your notes, radiuses and things like that. Now seriously, I wouldn't dimension that up by radiuses, so these dimensions are definitely wrong. So at the end of the day, it's dependent on how you want to do your dimensioning, and I find that the auto dimensioner doesn't exactly give me what I want, but it's there, it exists, and it can save you a bit of time depending on what you're detailing. Now I've just hit Control S. And automatically it's picked up the name of the plate, and it needs to be the same name as the plate itself. Okay, so straight away it's put it in there. By default I just click save. Okay, so now I've got two parts in that folder. So if I go back to that folder, you'll see I have two parts. These are tilde files, so it tells me that I've actually got them open. Okay, they're just background files that are running. Alright, so now I've created my plate. I've got my plate template. Now on a plate template, the top half of the plate template is where a bill of materials will end up, so you want to keep that spare. Now you can set up your template any way you like. We've just got a default here with calling up different types of grades, so we know what we're using, and stock standard note, and the actual template itself is blank because it is a template. Alright, so I'm just saving that, closing it, Now I've got my plate. Now my plate itself, I'm going to have to add this to the library. Okay, it's at that stage now where I can do that. When you add it to the library or upload it to the library, it takes a snapshot of the plate in its current position. Okay, so you can zoom right in and get the plate, or you can zoom right out and not get anything. So you get this little picture. Now I recommend you can zoom right in, keep it over to the left because that's where the snapshot is. Now the actual bitmap snapshot that gets created is a 200 by 200 bitmap, and you want to make sure that you've got your picture pretty much square in a 200 by 200 bitmap. Now my screen is a widescreen, so if I centered it, it would be off center in the 200 by 200 bitmap, and hence the reason why I push it to the left a little bit to try and bring it in. Now this is one way of getting an image happening, but you have to do it this way. You can come back and render it and save over the top of the actual item. Now let's go back so that you can see what's in our plate library. Now in our plate library we've got all of our different plates. They go into folders, and then in those folders we've got the drawing numbers. The drawing in the part, similar to what I've got. Now in the pictures library, these are rendered items, so you can render them and make them look nice and pretty to suit yourself. Or you can just leave them as snapshots, and you can write over the top of them. You just open it up and edit in Paint, zoom in and put your text in, and that image will come into TSD when you go to the plate library. I'll just demonstrate that so that you can see it happen. So to put ourselves a plate in, we want to upload a plate. Okay, we've changed the plate naming conventions. So if you look at this, I'm not up to date with this. This has happened and I need to change it. So here in the actual plate library, I'm going to change this convention so it matches this one here. Okay, this is a member plate, this is a connection plate. Okay, we've done this deliberately because we want consistency by the looks of it. This is not consistent, this naming convention. So the naming of a new plate and the new drawing is quite simple. We'll just go File, Save As. Okay, and in here we have what we call an AA, which is the area, and then the plate name can be XX, and then 001 is the actual member, and then P01. Now that's the naming convention, and we need to change that plate, and we also need to change the library, the directory to which it belongs to. Now I'm just going to copy that because that naming convention is what it should be. Now I'm just going to go back to the drawing. So go back to the drawing itself. So I've clicked Open. There's the drawing. So I'm just going to rename that by clicking on it. Now that doesn't automatically link the drawing. I'm just going to remove the old one and select it and delete it because now I've created a new one. If I've got the open dialog box up and I select the drawing, we have a reference button. Okay, we need to re-reference that. If you click on that, you'll get this reference. So now what we need to do is change it and point it to the new location. Sometimes it doesn't take you where you need to go. So if you go back and just copy the directory tree at the top, go back to the references, double click on the component and paste the directory tree in place. That'll take you back to where you should be. Alright, so now we've named it and we've re-referenced it. Okay, so now that plate drawing is now looking at the correct plate. Now let's go and open up the folder. So we need to go back to the folder to where the plate exists. Now make sure you've got nothing open, because if you do, you cannot rename the folder. Oh, that's right, I copied the directory, so I'm just going back to the actual file name and I'm going to paste that in there. Now if that happens and it doesn't let you get in there like this, and it's good that I've actually shown you that you can't do this, you literally have to close SolidWorks. Unfortunately, because SolidWorks sometimes maintains a link, so just be aware of that. So now we should be able to change it. Okay, now SolidWorks is out of it, we've changed it. The folder itself has to be not the same name, but the member assembly to which it contains it, because what we're doing is we're duplicating the actual member assembly. The plate itself, of course, has to be named with a P01, P2, P02, P03 and so forth, as if you want to upload them, but that folder has to mimic as it would for the first 12 digits, which is a member. Alright, so let's fire up SolidWorks and let's bring our plate in to the library. There's a little bit of fiddling around. For me that was a learning experience, and I'm sure for you it was as well. something new that I have to adapt myself and my training methods to. With the new version of TSD, we have all of our tutorials down through here now for people to use. Our customers get the full tutorial set. Our trialers only get tutorial 9, but there's 16 tutorials there for them to follow through with. Alright, let's get back to this plate. So I've just opened that area back up again by logging into it. If I go to my files list, I've got my plate in memory. So you're going to want the plate itself. Oh, I changed the path, that's right. Let's have another go, eh? So back to the desktop, grab the layouts folder, plates, grab the plate itself. Okay, now we want to upload this. Okay, so now the actual upload interface has occurred. We're going to currently upload the open plate, okay, and we're going to make sure that that plate itself goes up. Now we can actually load plates in from a file. We'll cover that on another day. That's usually a file that we've created from Quadro, and we'll give it to you. And it may contain many files so that you can upload lots of them in one go. So it's a little different in the process, but in this instance, we're just going to stick with the same plate. So I'll just click my tick, and now that's been added to the library. So now when I go over to my connections, before I do this, I have to open up the member to ensure that I'm in the right location to test the plate insertion. So now if I go into my connections and I go to insert plate, and because it's the last plate that gets appended to the list, it'll be the last one on the list. So there it is there. So I just click on my plate. I need to test to make sure that everything's worked okay. So in comes my plate. Now it's got a whole new name. It's been added to this area in this project and added to the member. So I'm opening the member up. If I right mouse click it and go open drawing, you can see that the template drawings come along with it as well, and it's now pointing to the plate. So now we can go in. While we're at it, I suppose we could probably just cover the process of using the exact same plate again. I'm going to blow this out of proportion, okay, just to demonstrate it so that it's obvious that there's something that's changed. Now if I open up the actual drawing, the plate, and then open up the drawing, you can see the drawing itself is now a little bit off. It's grown a bit, and you can go in and just tidy it up a bit, and change things to make them look better, neater, and so forth. So I'm just doing that now. Just make sure that we've got all of our notations inside the drawing. Okay, so we just updated our template again. And in this instance it's actually a live plate, so I've just updated it so that when I go through what we call a lock later, it's ready to go. But I've got my plate here, so how about we just upload this to the library too. Now it's a different type of plate. I could probably remove the chamfers, remove the hole in the middle if I wanted to, and then just upload that. So it's a whole new plate. We're just going to add it to the library. So TSD connections, upload plate, current open plate, hit my tick. Okay, so that's just added a plate. Now I've got two plates in the library, so I can now go in and let's just say we drag that out of the road, and we just go in and now we can insert another plate. So go back in there, go back to the last of the list, and there's our new plate. So now I insert another plate, and we've got a whole new plate instance that's totally different from the other one, so that if I was to change that and blow it out of proportion again, you can see that it's two different plates now. So you can see how I'm reusing the library to create my plates a lot quicker. And because that plate obviously is linked to its drawing, when I go right mouse click and open drawing, the whole plate has changed its shape. So all we need to do now is just go in and change the scale for the template. So obviously 1 to 20 is going to look, hang on, I changed the sheet scale, not the actual view scale. Okay, so we can make that a bit bigger, or 1 to 10 probably works better now. Okay, so you can go and just dolly that up and create a new template for a plate that's bigger, and then you can upload that into the library as well. So that pretty much shows you how you can add a plate to the library. Alright, now connections are very similar, so I'm going to go through the next level, which isn't connections. I'm going to go through parts. So for us to add a part to a library, I'm going to go through that process. Now this is a column that's sitting off to the side. I'm going to just grab that column and reuse it. So if I go into the sections here, I've got a column, and I'm just going to remove the link to the member sketch by right mouse clicking, editing the feature, what I do, go through that. I stepped through it too quick. Editing the sketch, selecting the sketch line and removing the relationship. Okay, so now I've just got a member here that has a sketch line that I can just drag up and down, and then it automatically adjusts. Now I'm going to position my member so that it's offset, just for this particular purpose. So now my column is offset from its member sketch. What I also can do, just so that you've seen it, you've probably never seen it before, from my member sketch I've actually got that in play. I'm just going to roll this up, this bar, which allows me to place another sketch in underneath, and I'm going to show my member sketch. On the front plane or the top plane or the right plane, I can draw any sketch I want to do any cuts. Okay, now I'm just going to place another sketch up here so I can do a trim, and on the right plane, if you select the right plane, and if you can't snap to the top point, you actually have to come out isometric. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a cut line in here, and I'm going to set it up so that it's at 70 degrees, and I'm going to give it a length so that we can cover any section we want. And I'll just make it 2 meters so that it's quite a deep cut, and we'll call it cut sketch. So cut sketch, and you'll notice that I've fully defined that sketch so that it moves with the line when I do my cut. So I'm just going to show you how that works. So now I've got my cut sketch, go into my features, go to my cut extrude, and just use the defaults. My arrow's pointing upwards, and that's the piece that I want to cut off. So now I've got myself a cut that's built into my member. You also might want to just select a face and put a circle in here to represent some sort of a tube that you want to run through, or you know, electrical. Just this is just an example. Anything you want, you can add. So I'm just positioning it, locking it down. Right, and I'm just going to cut that feature through so that it's in place. Okay, so now we've got ourselves a cut feature. Now, when this went in, for some particular reason it didn't create a drawing, I'm also going to just update the cut list here so that that member comes in under the size that it is. And we can change the size of this thing as well. Let's make it something, you know, substantial. So let's just go to a 610. Now when you do change the size, just remember that what SolidWorks does is it puts it back on center again, and we'll just move the profile over. So that's a decent sized column, so we can actually change the member as we go. For those that live in different countries, we've actually got the Weldment library there for every country, so you can use those. It means that also too that if you model something up in one country and you want to change it over to another country, we've developed the library so that all the faces stay where they're at, so all your connections stay connected. In previous libraries, Weldment libraries, you end up losing all your connections. So now we've got a member. So now what we want to do is we just want to upload this member to the library. Okay, but before we do that, let's just create a drawing for it. So if you go File, New, and I've got a drawing here for this. It's called TSD section. Okay, and I'm going to grab the actual object and put it on my drawing and detail it up. So if I go front view, that's the front view. If I go right view, okay, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees because I like laying my columns down because you get the full length of your drawing. Then I'm going to do an auxiliary view so that I'm looking that way, and then I'm going to do a projected view on the end of it. So I've got all my views. Okay, so now I'm just removing some extra center lines that have popped up. I'm going to add in some more center lines. So I want to add in my beam center line. Put in my center line. Now SolidWorks doesn't do this automatically, so you just put them in yourself. Okay, run a couple of dimensions so that we've got everything covered to detail it up. You know, position your hole, have your hole call out. Now, anything you like as far as your dimensioning standards go. So we've just created a basic template there for fabrication, nothing dramatic. Now I've just clicked save, and you'll notice that this hasn't gone back to the Oh, it has. It's gone straight to the folder to which contains the actual component itself. Now you'll notice that there is the two plates that we did in there. So now we've got ourselves a template for our part. We can now add this part to the library. So parts, upload a part, and use our filters. So I'm just adding this to my sections. So I've selected my section and my TSD filter, and now I hit my tick. Now this uploads it to the part library under those filters. So now I can reuse this part over and over again. And you'll also notice in the part I've got a member sketch. Now the member sketch came with the insertion of the blank member when I put it in. A member sketch is really important because it allows us to be able to insert parts on lines and attach them. So if I just suppress the existing one that's here so I don't see it anymore, and I'm just going to test my my new part as it came in to ensure that it actually works the way it should. You should always do that, by the way. Set up a play area, insert your parts, your plates and everything that you're going to create, and ensure that it actually works the way it should. So now if I go into my parts, I'm going to insert a part. Now I'm going to change my model type filter to section, and I'm going to set it up for TSD, and you'll notice our new column section is in there. So now I'm just going to insert this on this sketch segment just to test it, and now it's come in. Okay, so that seems to work okay. Now with that I need to open up the drawing and ensure the drawing is with it. You'll notice that now the template's changed a little bit. You can go in and just move things around, and you know, you're pretty much there. Just tidy it up. Alright, so see how you can reusing components in projects. Now, not only do parts can parts be weldments in such a, you know, members and columns and things like that. They can also be equipment. You know, like stanchions, which I've actually got in the project. So if I wanted to insert a stanchion, I mean, this might look a bit odd, but parts can contain equipment as well. So if you've modeled something up as a single part, as a piece of equipment, you can certainly insert that. So I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to go to vendor, stanchion, WebForge, and we'll just pick any kind of stanchion we've got here. Let's just say corner post. And with that, I don't want to insert it on a line. What I want to do is I want to insert it on a sketch point. Okay, so I just pick the end of the point, and that puts in a stanchion. Okay. Now you'll notice that there is a naming convention here at play. I did select a vendor item, and the item that's come in has come in with a V. Now that's a naming convention that we use. I'll cover that in another webinar. It's important that you use, I think there's 4 different letter conventions. You've got P for plate, you've got V for vendor, D for dummy, and M for member. The bill of materials, when created, uses these things in different processes. With vendor items, if you go into here and open up the part and go into the actual properties, the custom properties, this information on a vendor is already predefined. So you want your weight and you want your name of your stanchion in this instance to be included. So when you run your BOM compiler, what it does is it doesn't add anything to the custom properties, whereas with a member it does, and a plate it does. Okay, so that's why we've named them the way they are. Plates get treated differently to members, obviously because members have a weldment member inside them, weldment profile. The actual name of the weldment profile gets copied from the cut list, and we use one weldment per part, so one body per part as far as weldments go. So it grabs the cut list item and pastes it in the custom properties, which I've just shown you then automatically. Plates, it finds the bounding box of the plate and automatically populates that information. I'll just give you an example so you can see what I'm talking about. So that plate itself has custom properties. We've only just got its weight. Okay, now if I run the BOM compiler over the top of it, it goes through and something's happened to my graphics. It says that it's complete. It's a bit slow at this end. Which is a bit odd. Should have saved by now. The BOM compiler itself will go through and grab all the information that's associated to the model and bring it into the custom properties. Okay, looks like we've experienced some technical difficulties here. At this point, I may have to close SolidWorks and restart it, which is really bizarre. Never seen anything like that before, but saying that, it is software. So I'm just going to close the program. Yep, and fire it back up again. I should get a little image here that's popped up. No, it's really killed it, dead in its tracks. I'll go back into that again. Just bear with me. We'll bring it back in again. Nothing worse than a crash. SolidWorks has its moments. Can't say that might have been TSD, which is a bit unusual because that usually generally works. We probably run it again just to make sure. I'm just logging into the project that we were working on. You can do it several ways. Now the staunching itself is gone because I didn't save it. That's a possibility. But anyway, the BOM compiler, I'll just check that again to make sure that that's working. Okay, so that's worked now. So now when I open up the plate itself and have a look at the custom properties in there, you'll notice that there is a description of the actual plate itself and length. Now, what TSD does, if it's a flat bar, it'll call it a flat. It will check to see the size complies with different types of flats, and if it's a flat bar, it'll call it up as a flat bar. In this instance, it's called it up as a plate because it is a plate and doesn't fit within the flat bar requirements. So it's given us the information automatically. That information comes into our bill of materials so that when we do insert a bill of materials, I'm just going to put one in for an example here so that you can see, and it's pretty much come in with the right information that we need. And this is just an example bill of materials. Obviously what comes into the drawing is different. Alright, so that pretty much sets us up for plates. Connections are a little bit more involved. What I'm going to do with a connection, I'll just show you some basics so that you can see how a connection is created from scratch. Alright, so let's go back over into our layouts area. In this instance, we go back to our layout. I'm going to create a new folder. New folder, connections. And in there for connections, I need to name it a certain way again under the rules. AA, I think it's CN or AAXX001 and then dash CN01 dash, let's just say this is XX01. Okay, now different connections, you can put them into folders, so I'm just going to call this a base plate, and I'm going to stick that folder in there, and that's the naming convention for a connection. The first 4 digits is the project number, and right up to the last digit is actually a member, so we've just created a generic name. The next 4 digits is the actual plate, the connection number in sequence, which automatically gets adjusted as you insert a connection into a TSD project. And then the next one is the actual connection type. So if I used a code, say for instance end plate, my end plate code would be EP in there. I'm not going to cover the actual library filter just yet, but for the naming convention, this is the default sort of process. So in that folder, I've just copied the folder name. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to create an assembly from scratch. I'm just going to save this and close it. Now I've got a part. I just want to create a new assembly. So I've just clicked new, and then under the assembly I've got different assemblies. I've got a TSD assembly which I can work with, and in there I'm just going to save it. Okay, let's go back to the desktop, our layouts folder, connections, base plate, and in there we're going to put the base plate like that, and click save. Now in our base plate, depending on how we want to model connections, in this case I'm just going to draw a member sketch line which is going to drive the actual column stub, and I'm going to give it a 600. Actually I might make it a little bit smaller, it's too big. Okay, and this is our member sketch, or I've stuck it on the wrong plane, which is really good because then I can show you how you can actually shift your sketch from one plane to the other. In this instance I want it on the front plane, and it's flipped it. Now you'll notice that with member sketches, because this is a different member sketch, I'm just going to flip that back up. It can be fully defined, because all we're doing in this instance is just putting a stub on it. Now I name it member sketch. Now member sketch is the name, and also too with the member sketch we want to duplicate it with parts. So I'm just going to create a new part now from scratch. So in that we go through a process. Just going to grab a new part, and on the front plane I'm going to do the same thing. Now you can set up your templates so that these sketches automatically come in every time. Now I'm going to give this a size, but I don't want the dimension on it because I'm going to drive it with the assembly. This is going to be in context related. So member sketch again, and I'm going to put a weldment. Oops, I just clicked save, but we'll do that in a minute. I'm just going to put a weldment on it. So BHP metric, let's just go UB, and then just put on a say a 250 UB or something like that. So I'm just creating the stub for the connection, and I need to put it into this folder, so I'm just going to copy the folder name if I don't still have it in memory. And this is going to be a dummy member, so a DO1, because it's just a stub to size things, okay? So I could set this stub up so that if I needed to change the plate size to match the column it's going to go on, I could drive the plate that's going to be attached to this simply by in context relationships. Right? So now I've got my dummy member. I'm now going to go tile horizontal over here under window, and I'm going to bring this in by dragging and dropping it. Now in previous versions of SolidWorks, dragging and dropping from the top level down to the bottom level used to go to origin. It's really a bit odd. Never seen it not do this. So I've just grabbed the origin and I've just mated it so that the axes are aligned, because this isn't going to move from its position. And you'll notice now it's fully defined down the bottom, and it's locked in place. Alright, so now what we need to do is just edit this sketch. So if we click the sketch and edit the sketch, we want to make that line and that line equal. Okay, now we've got ourselves a connection started. Now we want to put a plate in. Alright, now before we do that, this is a dummy component. Dummy components are excluded from the bill of materials because we don't want them coming in, and we want to be able to have them hide when we use our member locking processes. All they are is just a spacer for putting plates in, or a main driver of a plate. Now we added our plate in earlier. I just want to test this functionality to bring in the plate we just created, and we should be able to. So there's our plate that we just created earlier, and you see how I'm reusing the same information. Now I don't want to use everything that's in this plate. I simply want to get rid of that feature out of there. Okay, and take the sketch away. Just change the size of this thing so it's not so big, say 300 in that direction. And we could create the make the size of this plate change as we change members. And I think I might actually do that just to demonstrate the process. So this plate itself, we want it so that as I change the section, the plate size will automatically update. Okay, so to do that, essentially what you want to do is you want to put a cut on this thing straight away so that we've got it. So if you go to the TSD utilities and go trim part weldment, and they've also done this as well for a reason, so that you can't use TSD functionality outside of TSD. Good one. Wonder why we would do that. So we can just do this by editing the part. Select the top face and put a plane on it and go coincident. Okay, now we do this because we can apply a trim, and the trim is driven by the plane. So I've just opened the part up, and now I've gone down into the face, and now I can discard that, so that is now trimmed back. Now if you do a trim to face using TSD, using SolidWorks functionality, the trim doesn't update. So you've actually got to do an in-context plane to trim between parts. Now this plate isn't fixed. I'm just going to fix that in place because we want to keep it where it is. Now you could potentially just raise the plate up to allow yourself some sort of clearance for grout. In this instance I'm not going to bother with that. It's how you want your connection at the end of the day. So I'm just going to position that so that that's locked, and I clicked origin to origin, and I'm aligning the axes. Alright, so there's my plate, it's trimmed. Now I want to drive this plate based on my trims. So if I go in and edit the sketch's profile, so edit the sketch, there's the sketch that drives the plate. Now I only want that to stay at that distance. I want to drive this distance, right? And to do that, I can potentially just go in there and go 75. Okay, now I've linked it to the column stub. So now if I was to change the column stub, that plate would be driven from it. So to do that, I edit my feature, change my column size. Okay, there it is. Do a rebuild. Okay, so you see the plate change. So as I change my weldment size, the plate size will change. You can set up your plates in configs as well, so that if you change the weldment size, the plate size will automatically update. And you can do that in configs. If you haven't done configs, I suggest you have a look at it. Configs are really handy. Don't go overboard. If you have too many configs in a model or too many configs in an assembly, you can end up blowing it right out. And your project ends up being massive. I mean massive. I've seen them get really big. When we put configs in, every time you create a new config, it creates more data in the file. It has to handle it, and thus the size of the file grows. I've seen 100 meg connections being created, so just be wary that these files do grow. Alright, so we've got ourselves a basic connection here that we've created. We've made our driving part, our dummy part, excluded from the bill of materials, and what we want is when we put this into a project, we want to make sure that the actual connection itself is going to function the way it should function. So that means that when we lock it, we want to hide the excluded components. So just testing it, we go to TSD and we go hide excluded components, and of course you can only do that in a project at a certain level. So we'll test that when we insert it into the project. Okay, so now we've got ourselves a basic connection. We just want to make sure that our drawing template is updated. So whatever happened here, we've got some dangling dimensions, we want to remove them, and so forth. Okay, so we just tidy that up. Don't need that note. Okay, so there's our template for the plate. There's no template for the dummy component because we only use that just as a spatial requirement. Alright, so now we've got ourselves a connection. Push it over to the left just like we did with the plate. Connections, upload connection, same sort of situation. We want to select the currently open connection, okay, and we want to select the model discipline. In this case it's going to be a base plate. Hit your tick. That adds it to the connection library so that we can reuse this over and over again. Alright, so that's just about done. There we go. So now I can close that off. I go back over into my project that I've been working on. Okay, this is a member that we've got here. Alright, I'm just going to suppress these two, and I'm going to unsuppress that and bring back the main section. Okay, the main section's been fiddled with, so I'm just going to bring that back to where it was. So I just want to make those two. If you cannot select a line in the background, it means the SpeedPack configuration has gone wonky. Now I won't get into SpeedPack configs, but to solve the problem, if we just update the SpeedPack, we can now select the line. Used to be able to, or sorry, you got to go back over to default to do that and get back out of SpeedPack because it puts it in SpeedPack when you edit it. And now I can select the line. So now I'm just going to go in and re-edit that sketch again, select the line and go equal. So there's our member. Alright, now the member itself has got that trim at the end, but not too concerned about that. And what we also want to do is we want to put this one back on center, because the column is on center on the center line in this instance. I didn't design it to be offset, but we can. It's not a big deal. So now we go into our connections and we're going to go into the base plates. Now our base plate is the last one that got added to the library. There it is there. Alright, now in your base plate you can go nuts, by the way. I forgot to mention in the base plate connection you can put all your holding down bolts in there as well, and grout, all that sort of stuff. You can even put shear keys in, so yeah. Just thought I'd mention that. So at the moment I'm just going to put a connection in. Now to put a connection in we actually need two members to put a connection in. So I'm just going to exit out of that. And to put another member in, it can be the same member twice. It's just part of the connection process because it needs to know whether there's something else. Because when you put a base plate in, there's only one member it's going into. Obviously with other connections it's not one member. These are just it's just a certain situation where you need it. Now I'm just bringing in a second instance, and what I did there was I just clicked on it, hit my control key, held my left mouse key down and dragged it out, and that created the second instance of the same column. Now this is floating. It's just temporary. We're going to remove it after we put our connection in. So we go back into the connections and base plate, go down to the bottom, select our base plate, select the point at which we're going to put it on, select the member it's going into, and this is where the second instance comes in. So we select the second instance or another member, and now our base plate has been added to the column. Okay, now you'll notice they're different, they don't match. Okay, to fix that, you go to TSD Utilities and you go Match Weldments. You click on the standard, and what we do is the very first thing we need to do is select the member that we're going to change, and then select, the section we're going to change, and then the section we're going to change it to. Okay, and you'll notice that it's updated this information automatically. We don't want to include the member that we just selected last in the build. Then we just hit the tick. Okay, so now you'll see your plate change. Okay, now the plate's been updated to suit that member. Now the second member that we've got over here on the right hand side we can get rid of. Okay, and now we have a member. Now if I wanted to change this whole column and change the size to the whole column to suit itself, I go back to the Match Weldments again, select the standard, right? I can select the column, right? And if you cannot select the member that's in underneath here, if you right mouse click and go select other, you'll get an option. Select the body. Now let's change this section, say to 310 UB. Hit your tick, and that'll update that column for you, and the plate and the stub, okay, in one go. Pretty handy, pretty quick, and you can see how you can change things fairly quickly. So now we've created ourselves a member, and we're running out of time here. Looks like we've got about 4 minutes here. What I want to do is I just want to show you how to quickly upload a member to the member library. If I open a drawing, there's no drawing for this thing, so I just want to go File, New, and I also have a weldment drawing template that I've created, and I need to open up the member to which it belongs. So if I go back to the assembly which contains it, I need to open up this member. Now I just want to make sure there's no drawing. Good. So now if I go back to the drawing that I've gone to open and go Insert Model Item, actually it's probably quicker if I just do the whole process again. Make sure that you're in this assembly first. File, New, Weldment. Okay, so now my weldments come up in the list to select pick. You can go nuts, put the column down one side, take the center lines off, go and insert another one. So under the View Layout tab, View Model, select another one, and we can pick the side to which we want. I'm just going to rotate that around. Wrong way. I like my base plates to be the other way, so 270. Okay, so everything is fabricated from left to right. It's up to you on how you want to present your model. Now these views that I've dropped in are snapping to the sheet view, so I just want to change the scale of the view. So to do that I'm going to go 1 to 50, so I've got myself a column. And you can also, if you want to, go nuts, make it colourful so that you've got your colours. Now you'll notice the column stubs come in. There are techniques and steps here. I'm just going to run you through them fairly quickly because we are running out of time. In there I should be able to collect the connection, but I'm just going to run a dimension off that, and you can create your own template as you go. So I'm just there's my view, so I could potentially just swap those over, put a section on there. Oops, that's what happens when you rush. So I just want to put a sketch in here for a section view. Just go up into my sections. Okay, detach the section because at the moment if I move it, it slides along. So I just want to right mouse click, alignment, break alignment, put my section up there. Section A, give it a label that actually means something. I can run dimensions all over that. And now that I've actually got this member, I'm just going to put it in here where it belongs. Okay, and it belongs in here by default because that's where the member is. I click Save. Okay, obviously I do a lot more work to set that template up. I'm just rushing through here. So now I've got myself a member. I've got a couple of plates in here that I'm not using. I'm just going to clean those out and get rid of them so the PO2s are out of there. And to do that I've also got to remove them from the filing. So we've got a P01 there we want to get rid of because we uploaded that, the P02s and the vendor. Okay, now I'm doing this because I know that the program will tell me that there are files in here that it does not like, okay, and it needs to remove them. Alright, there's an MO2 here that's not being used. It'll tell me that I need to get rid of those. Now I just need to make sure it is the MO2. Yep, so it's the MO1's being used. So I'm just going to remove the MO2. That was the second one we inserted, so that's gone. Now, TSD members, upload member. Now this is going to be a structural column and then a TSD. Okay, so now we can upload that to the library, but before we do that, we need to make sure that our member sketch is free and floating at this level, and it is. Otherwise you'll get messages telling you that things are looking outside the folder. Now you need to do just one more quick check just to make sure everything's alright. If you go File, Find References, you need to know that everything is contained within the main assembly file of the column. That's what happens here, and you can see everything is in that. That's good. So none of our references are pointing out. So now if we go Members, Upload Member, Structural, Column, TSD, hit the tick. Now that's added it to the library. So now we've got that in our member library. So members, we go into columns, and we go scroll down. There's our new column. So we can reuse that over and over again now too. So if I go, let's just say we go front plane and draw ourselves a sketch. And I'm just going to exaggerate the crap out of that so that that's nice and big. And now if we go into members and we go columns and select our column and pick the sketch, it will insert our new column. Obviously massive length and blown out. Our connection and everything is in there, and we now have a new instance of the column that's come into our project. So now we've got that column and we can fiddle with it and add all sorts of things to it. So that's just giving you a general overview of how it works. Now there are going to be some things that you're going to do that TSD will throw wobblies at you. Please feel free to do that. If you've got any questions, send an email to us at support@thesteeldetailer. We'll ensure you get your answers pretty much straight away. So I just want to thank you for your time and coming in. It's unfortunate that we didn't get through the whole process because I wanted to show you some other things. We may have to in the next webinar just continue on with the area and the project. If you're interested, just let us know. The processes are the same right through up to this point, and then from here you just upload the area itself to the library. It's a bit different, and then you can insert the area into a project. Alright, okay, so thanks very much for your time, and if you're starting today, enjoy your day, and if you're finishing up today, we'll see you next week. Also too, we do another webinar tonight, which is 8 o'clock Perth time. Come and join us again if you like. We'll see you then. Thanks very much for your time. Bye.